time, and we, got out there and went and did some other things around the country with WWE and just traveling on our own. Me and Andy as the Naturals, and then we went over to Puerto Rico and we built, it was almost like the old territory days, that you always hear about, like, because Puerto Rico's a little bit behind compared to the United States on just everything in general. They're just behind, and it's a good thing for wrestling because, they're still like 100% into the matches and heels, baby faces, and just angles. If you just have characters and run angles, like you can get those people riled up, and that was that was the highlight of my cruise, riling people up. So we had a lot of fun over in Puerto Rico. So, and I'm still traveling today. And Andy retired. It's been 8 years ago now.
Wow.
He retired, and he went back to school, and he is now a chiropractor. A couple towns over from me in Tennessee. So, anytime I get beat up and bruised up, too bad, he helps me out and takes care of me and puts me back on the road. So he owns his own chiropractic company, business or whatever, and it's called Nashville Neck and Back. So if you're ever in the Nashville area, look him up, go give him a visit, he'll hook you up.
Yeah, you guys had some great managers and leadership, I guess I could call it, with Jimmy Hart. You guys worked with the late, great Chris Candido and the franchise Shane Douglas. Those had to be some awesome moments and memories and getting to learn from those guys.
Man, they was. Dusty Rhodes come in as a booker. I can't remember the exact year it was, but, we'd ran into him quite a few times over the years, but we'd never been under him as a booker, We'd worked on his promotion and things like that back in the day, but nothing where he's like on the big scale again and things like that. So he took a liking to us, and, I'd never met Chris Candido at the time. I don't think Andy had either. And, after watching a few of our matches, Dusty thought Chris Candido, thought we was all just born to be together. So he brought in Chris on the next taping, introduced us, and it was just, you would have thought we had been wrestling together for 10 years at that point in time. Like we just meshed. We didn't have to choreograph anything. Like we went out and we all played our part and did exactly what you do common sense wise in a ring, and everything just worked out the whole time. We wasn't together all that long. I think we had a good three months with Chris, but man, that 3 months, just the knowledge that I gained from him, was out of this world. He was just I can't say enough good things about him. You know what I mean? Like he really was like far and beyond his time. Like he was a great. And if he was still with us today, he'd still be ringside, doing something with wrestling. He's one of those guys that lived, breathed, and just was a walking encyclopedia to wrestling.
Yeah, I still remember when Chris Candido died, and he was, still very active and so young, and definitely had a lot that he had proved and still had to give to professional wrestling. He had a great time in WWF at the time, and of course with TNA and ECW, definitely a legend before his time.
Yes, 100%. I mean, he died at 33, and look at the impression he left, and in that small. In just a few years, look at the impression he left on wrestling. He'll be a legend for eternity.
Absolutely, and I mentioned before we got you on the phone that being that you've been in wrestling for 21 years now, that's definitely
22.
Is it 22? That's just crazy to think because wrestling is so tough on you physically and mentally. That it's not necessarily a business kind of like football where you would have an over 20-year career. It's amazing.
There's not an off season. You get hurt and you rub some dirt on it and walk it off, and you gotta and, you know, when you're not contracted and when you're doing it on your own, you know, a lot of people don't understand that you really can make money in this business just on the indies. You know, if you know how to work your business right and you know how to, you know, run the right routes, you can make decent money at this without being contracted. And I've been fortunate enough to do that over the years and keep maintain a family and, you know, keep my bills paid and things like that and live a nice, comfortable life. But with that, there is, you know, the bumps and bruises and things like that. Because, you know, it's, each show has its own direction that it's going. So you gotta stay up with your character on each show. If you're a good guy, bad guy, if you're, you know, the cage matches, you got ladder matches, you got every other kind of match they can possibly think of in today's world, and it just depends on what show you're going to, like where they're at in their storyline with you. And, you know, just like this weekend coming up, I gotta be in West Virginia at noon for a wrestling show. It starts at noon, and then I gotta be in Owensboro, Kentucky by 6 p.m. and I got a cage match at 6 p.m. So, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, that just depends on where you land and how things are. Like, you know, 2 weeks ago I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. Like, but in all honesty, that's the first time I've been overnighted ever in the hospital. So it's just one of those things, you know, 22 years, I've only been kept in a hospital one time. So, I mean, I've even broke my neck twice and they never even kept me overnight in the hospital. So, but it really wasn't that bad. Everything checked out. They ran everything on me. And so they cleared me to wrestle, said that I was completely healthy. Just happened to be just one of those weird situations that ended up having some blackout moments, and they chalked it up to post-concussion, you know, from in the past. You know, just caught up with me with being out in the heat and no water in the building whatsoever. So it all just hit, you know, home at that point in time. It just happened to be one of those days. So I'd already wrestled 12 times in the last 14 days, and it was my last day before I got to go home. And of course, the next 2 days I spent in the hospital, and I didn't miss any shows, but that was my off time to be home, you know. And then I had to go right back on the road when they cleared me to leave. So you know, it's one of those roads, you know. It's wrestling. If you love it, that's you got to put your time in, and I feel I've done that in my, you know, my years in this.
Yeah, and learning from the wild-eyed Southern boy, Tracy Smothers, definitely had to have helped your mind and, you know, as far as working the mat, because he's an absolute legend.
Man, Tracy has traveled the world. I don't even know how many years he's been wrestling today, and he's still out there. He's still hustling, still making towns, and making a living being a professional wrestler, you know, and God bless him. Like, you know, he's one of the toughest guys, you know, that's ever been in the sport. And, you know, I hopefully, you know, later on down the road, like I can live up to those expectations and walk in those footsteps.
Absolutely. I love that he's, no matter, you know, where he's been or what he's done in wrestling and how long he's been in, he's still willing to give back to the next generation and the up-and-comers and teach them how to do it instead of, you know, getting trained from some yarder or paying a bunch of money to go to a school that's not credible.
100%. He has given back to this business, you know, thousands and thousands of times over. And if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be standing here talking to you on the phone right now, because I probably wouldn't have prospered in wrestling, and don't think I'm almost 100% sure I wouldn't have become anything, because I wouldn't have known how to get anywhere to go and to become anything. I trained a couple times before Tracy, and it just so happened Tracy caught attention to me and asked me to jump in the car and travel with him, you know, and just you know, I learned and I met the right people, and I ended up putting myself in the right situations to become something more, you know. But if I wouldn't have met Tracy, if I wouldn't have showed up at that show, and if I would have stayed in my hometown, I probably would end up just getting a basic job and finally building a family and quitting wrestling altogether. You know, it's a lot of people do it today. You know, they come in, they got a good 3-4 year run where you think that they got talent and this and that, and just things come, you know. They end up with children and married, and you know they can't travel as much anymore, and they end up you know, taking a back seat and deciding that wrestling isn't for them. So you only get a, you know, good 3-4 year run in some of these guys. So you know, I've been very fortunate to have 22 you know, crazy years in the sport to learn and gain knowledge, and you know, whenever I started, you know, 1997, 98, like on that breaking point, like you know, WCW was getting ready to be burned out, like ECW was on its way down. There was a lot of main TV guys that were, you know, looking for money and hitting all the indie scenes at that point in time, and so you know, they were taking over, and I just happened to be coming in at that point in time. So I got to meet, you know, all these amazing TV stars and learn from them and sit in a locker room and hear their stories. And it was just, you know, for a few years there, it was a, you know, to be starting, it was a great time. And I didn't realize you know, at that point in time, I didn't realize the knowledge I was getting off those guys. And so I look back, you know, 15 years later at that point in time, I started looking back and I'm like, man, these kids really don't have anybody to learn off of anymore. You know, it's very rare that you even see one veteran in a locker room these days, let alone multiple ones helping the kids and teaching them the correct way. So you just got a bunch of, you know, younger guys trying to learn what they watched on Monday Night Raw, and that's all that they can.
Right.
That's as far as they can go, is just the moves. They don't know why they're even doing the moves. So in turn, they don't know how to make money at this, like real money at this. They don't know how to draw a crowd in to make that real money. And usually that promotion ends up, you know, folding because it can't produce, you know, the money that it needs to get its fan base in there, you know. It's just wrestling, you know, it's business. That's what that part of it is, business. And a lot of these kids don't really understand business. They understand it's a hobby, but I don't think they really look at it today as, man, I really could make a living at this if I knew how to do it correctly and I knew the right way of doing it. It's not about moves. It's about putting the moves in certain spots and why you're doing it and how to build and things like that. And if each match would learn that and learn their part, then their crowds would build automatically, and you know, everybody would make money at this, and it wouldn't just be a set few, and those guys really could make it to a top spot. I mean, starting, you know, this year has been an amazing year for wrestling. It's really picked back up, and it hasn't been this hot in, man, probably 17, 18 years. You know, there's room for people now. I mean, there for the longest time there wasn't room for anybody. There was, you know, 50,000 wrestlers running around in the United States, and you know, there's only 200 of them that could get a job at one time. You know, so you had all these people that couldn't get jobs. Now there's Ring of Honor on TV. There's MLW. There's you know, AEW's getting ready to do their thing. You got WWE. You got NXT. You got SmackDown, Raw, all that. I mean, there's just New Japan. Like there's so many different things now for these kids to be fighting for and trying to get there and really pushing themselves. And, you know, right now, if I was young, like coming up into it, I would be hungry, and I'd be in the gym every day, and I'd be, you know, like I wouldn't be too worried about a real job and like pushing myself at a real job. I'd be trying to find a part-time job that just paid. I'd limit my bills and push myself for wrestling, because this next couple of years is going to be, I mean, it's going to skyrocket. Wrestling's picking back up, you know, and when I started in this sport, they told me it goes in circles, and it's just making it through the humps to get it to the other side of the circle. And it's, like I said, it's been like 15 years for the circle to come back around, but it's coming back around now, and like wrestling's being talked about in the homes today, and the young kids are starting to pick up again, and the teenagers are starting to like it, starting to become cool again, and people are starting to come out to these indie shows, and they're selling out all over the place.
Yeah, that's very awesome. And going back to getting